All right, so we're coloring with markers. First thing I would say is that you can always check to see that your marker is not running out of ink and it's not mixed with any other colors on a scrap paper. It's always a good thing to do first. And then there's a couple of different ways where how I like to color with markers. The first way is circles. And I feel that the circles will really blend in with each other. And then we outline the outside of the letter from there, so everything is nice and sharp. One thing that we don't do often enough is turn our paper so that what is easy for us becomes easy. So we point towards the line so we can see where the marker ends. It's going to help for painting too. And we start outlining there. And then we can make circles to blend. You can see that those circles overlap with each other and there's a lot less lines. Now this is a special kind of paper that's coated with a little bit of a plastic film, which allows us to actually do some things with the markers that we couldn't do otherwise. So we're really going to let this almost dry. I'm going to change so it's just the tip of the marker, trying to do this part. And I'm going to show you why I really like this paper. Now while that dries, you can also do lines. Some people really like to do nice even lines so that if there is any overlapping, you have this nice feeling of everything going the same way. And I do really like that too. That doesn't help as much for painting and for drawing as the circles do. So I like to practice what I do with all of my different materials. So I do the same thing with circles that I do with markers that I do with paint. Things are going to be a little bit easier. So I'm going to take my finger and I'm just going to go over this lightly, and my finger is moist enough that it's blurring out my marker. And if you really need to, you can breathe on your finger, and the moisture of your breath is enough to add a little bit to that, and you can rub out some of these marks to make it a lot smoother. And you can actually go back over with a little bit. So let's say I don't like this mark right here. I'm going to go over it again with a little bit more, and I'll use my finger even maybe while it's wet and blend that in until that line kind of disappears. Now notice the only problem with this is that you can blend over the lines, and so be careful about that because the markers will never truly be dry, in the sense that if you go over with something moist, they will bleed, or they will smear. So again, you can do lines, and then once you get to the edges, slow down and really carve out the lines, pointing to the edge. This is also why we do the outlines last, so that if we smear, or if we, you can see that if you let it all the way dry, it does still leave a little bit of a mark, but it's not too bad. A lot better than when we use other papers. All right. So try to keep with one color. And again, if you need to go over a little bit to blend some of that out, you can let that dry, and then that line that's right there will start to disappear. Now, after we're all done, we go back and can outline it in black. Again, because we don't want the black to bleed, so we do all the color first, which is why a lot of times I always tell you guys to wait for your Sharpies. So that's my letter J. Now notice in my design, I have bunches of letters doing different things. You can add things like accessories. You can add things like backgrounds to some of your words. So we'll go back, now that's a little bit drier, blend that in. All right. So you can see that that blends a lot better than it would with other kinds of paper. Now remember though, when we're doing other colors, especially light colors like yellow, so first we'll check this. Good, that tip looks like it's not contaminated. And then we'll come around here. Now you'll notice that some of this will blend a little bit. You got a little bit of orange feeling in there. So try not to go over the lines, which is again, why we're going to really point to this line and see where it stops. If I'm pointing, I can really see when the marker is about to touch. And even if I leave just a tiny, small length of space, now I'm coloring really quickly. I suggest that you guys color a lot more slowly. All right, so check that out. Afterwards, we'll do some outlining and show you what happens next.